99.9 Punk World Radio FM. Right here, we are joined by Northern Ireland, north coast of Ireland's finest. We got Empires to Ruins right here, live on the radio. How are you guys doing tonight?
Very well, thank you. Bit tired, but it's been a long old week, but well worth staying up for this. We've been really looking forward to this, and yeah, it should hopefully be a really good experience for us.
Oh, and I gotta say thank you again for actually staying up. I know it's 8:30 here, but I believe it's 1:30 in the morning there, so it's actually practically a brand new day. It's Monday there,
It
so I
is.
mean, not only are you staying up late, you're also staying up late on a Monday to chat with us. So I mean, that right there is actually badass.
It's no problem at all, mate. Honestly, we wouldn't miss this opportunity for the world, and we're still absolutely stoked to be given the opportunity. A little bit of disbelief at the same time because as flattering as it is to get on there, we are, in your words, North Coast's finest, but we're just three guys just doing our thing and having a bit of fun. So it's a great experience to be here, and especially given some of the artists that you've had on previously, it's a real honor. So thank you for that.
Hey, you're most certainly welcome, guys. But I do know it is late, so I'm not going to take you away from your Monday too long. But I got to take you back to the beginning of Empires to Ruins. Like, what is the story actually behind this band? Like, how did you three come together as one to form Ireland's finest?
Do you want to take this one, Stuart? Or yeah,
Well, yeah.
it's a
I
long one,
guess
isn't it?
yeah. It's what 20 years
Must be
probably.
20 years in the making. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
weird one because like we didn't kind of start as Empires to Ruins. We sort of we started out a long time ago as these sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed teenagers, writing punk music, metal music, all the rest of it. We went our different ways for periods of time, but we kind of came back together in what was it, Stuart, 2022, 23.
yeah. Whatever lockdown was.
We had obviously COVID. Everyone's sort of, it's like a distant memory at this point in time, but we reunited our old bands, our really old band that started out, in the early noughties. We re-recorded one of our first songs. We did a little video, got all our kids involved, and I think with, sorry, Paul, should I say Paul? We call each other by different names, but we're using our formal names today. We kind of wanted to keep the creative juices flowing with that. And Kyle, who unfortunately sent his apologies, he's got an early start tomorrow morning. He's a drummer in the band as well, so it kind of made sense to keep that going. And I had a lot of ideas kicking around in the back of my mind, things that I wanted to do, little concepts and all the rest of it. And Paul and I have always kind of worked really well together. There's always been a really good dynamic, and I guess it didn't take a lot of coaxing to get Kyle on board too, given that, again, we've been playing music together for a long period of time. There's that, chemistry that you can't teach, you can't sort of, create out of thin air. It's going to happen sort of naturally. And yeah, I guess, the three songs that we've released to date, they're kind of like the culmination of, I guess, different kind of interests that we've taken in different directions in music that have kind of come together again in the sort of um, unique Empire style, if you want to call it that. So, yeah.
And when you said a few moments ago as well how you re-recorded an old body of your guys' older work, is that actually that re-recording? Is it actually out today for fans to actually go back and listen to? And of course, also with that being said, is the original releases still out there as well, wandering the internet?
It's a good
Well,
question.
we made a video, well, 5 years ago now, pretty much, and it's very much DIY, sort of little snippets of, takes of us doing silly things around the house. So it is available. I mean, if anyone really wants to listen to it, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but, that's a different matter. With regards to the original recording, I mean, I don't know, Paul, I mean, it was like 2006 when we recorded that first, wasn't it? And then we
Yeah,
re-recorded it like a year later or something, and it's been knocking around in various different kind of formats and stuff. So, I mean, we can have a look by all means, but again, I'd probably try and focus more on the on the current stuff if I'm perfectly honest. That's each to their own, I guess.
And also, you guys have a very unique band name, Empires to Ruins. I gotta ask, how did you guys actually come up with that name and acquire it? Because I gotta say, it's very fitting for you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, we tried a lot of different things. You know, I think when we first started kind of going with this idea, we did a lot of trial and error, and we wanted something that was tied in with the themes that we were kind of exploring in our songs. I think the first song that we released was primarily Paul's brainchild, Peacekeepers, very military themed, and I wanted something kind of related to it, but not too much at the same time. And I was listening to an album actually by a British band called Fight Star. I don't know if you've heard of them before. You know, kind of going over what the sort of music I was listening to in my teens and my sort of formative years. And they have a song called "Build an Army," which has the phrase in it, "Crush these empires to ashes." And I like empires to ashes, but we kind of wanted something that evoked a bit more imagery, and obviously ruins, makes you think of a collapsed building or an old temple or something. And we're very into our kind of ancient civilizations, and like we like researching that sort of stuff. So it just kind of it worked, and I think it had to be something that wasn't really taken by any other band, because there's so many different bands these days. Pretty much every name's been taken at some point. So like you said, we needed something to be kind of unique, that we weren't going to get some sort of copyright hustle with at some point later on. We wanted to make sure we had, this one. And I think the only thing that's close is, I think there's like some sort of PC game called like Empires in Ruins or of Ruins or something like that. But again, I think it's distinct enough to kind of tell the difference. So yeah.
I would hope so.
Well, I can say I heard of that game, and it's definitely a pay-to-win garbage game. But you guys actually have what it takes. I'm telling you, that game itself is. I think I downloaded it from my phone one day because I was bored, and I was like, "What the heck am I playing, man?"
Okay.
I uninstalled it while it was still running. So yeah.
I'll take your word for it. That's fine.
But also, March 24th of 2024, you guys actually released your first single titled Peacekeepers. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about your very first single.
I think you take the lead on this one, Paul. It's your song.
I think it was the sort of first one that we collaborated on quite a bit. Glenn sends me some ideas, I send Glenn some ideas. But with that one there, it just seemed to flow really, really easily. Glenn worked a lot on the vocal melodies, and the lyrics just sort of almost wrote themselves. But yeah, it was just about, I suppose, I don't like to say it's about something, and then someone else listens to it and think it's about something else. So for us, obviously, there's very clear military themes, and we have quite strong opinions about those, and we're very much against those. But if someone else listens to it and it triggers something for them, by all means, take it for that as well. But yeah, no, really happy with the way that song turned out, and it just came together quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a prime example of how, primarily us two. I mean, no disrespect to Kyle if he won't listen to this eventually. I mean, Kyle came in at a later point with the songwriting aspect, but when it comes to the lyrics and the layout and the structure of the song, it was Paul sent me this demo, and I was I just hear potential and stuff. I was like, this could be awesome. Like just not that it wasn't already great. I just needed a few little tweaks, and I was happy to provide that. And I think that's the thing about us. We don't take stuff like that too offensively. If I've written a piece and I'd send it over, didn't really like that chorus, you could probably do some. It's very much a collaborative sort of thing. The idea of sort of, this is the song finished, let's play it as is. It's going to be the three of us, and then like Paul said, when we took it into the studio, Kyle will do something crazy, for a breakdown, and just something that we weren't expecting at all, and it'll maybe change the whole dynamic of that section. And that's the joy of it. When you write with people, particularly people that you've got a good affinity and understanding with, the final product is often very different to what you envisaged it being. And in every instance with us so far, it's been for the better, in my opinion.
And also, as well, as we already spoke about, and as your fans know, and the listeners of this station know, you guys are on the north coast of Ireland. For the Canadian fans that actually haven't had the opportunity to visit Ireland, can you tell us a bit more about the punk scene out there in Ireland? Because I've heard some crazy stories about how big the punk rock scene really is actually out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, a quick disclaimer from my end. I actually don't live in Ireland anymore. I moved away quite a few years ago now, actually. But it's, being in the British Isles, it's pretty easy to get to and from places. So, I mean, I'm primarily based in. Do you know Wales at all? So
I've heard of
just
Wales,
across,
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I from the north coast, but I primarily live here and spend most of my time here. But through work and all the rest of it, I do get the opportunity to come back over. But I think in terms of the scene, like we was around like sort of 20 years ago, as I say, involved in a lot of the the local scenes there, which were just it was crazy. It was almost like there was a band every sort of square mile. It was just such a lot in such a small space. And a lot of those bands, they similar to our first band kind of faded out a little bit, but some of them went on to do, quite big things. And I think in recent times, obviously, since COVID and all the rest, I think a lot of the independent scene has been hit quite hard. A lot of venues have struggled quite a bit. There's a few that have kind of kept going, and as I say, my involvement, if I'm honest, is quite minimal because of logistic reasons first and foremost. But anytime I am home, and it's usually every sort of probably 8 weeks to 2 months, something like that, there for work or whatever. I think it's important to go to these shows and the open mic nights and stuff like that, and just kind of get a feel for the scene and all the rest of it. I mean, Paul, you've obviously been a bit more involved in the North Coast scene than I have over the last few years. Like, what would your kind of addition to what I've just said there be?
Yeah, I think it's probably with a lot of scenes like that probably struggled since COVID, really. Particularly in the North Coast scene, we lost probably our main venue, which was the Atlantic Hotel in Portrush, which was sadly bought over by a big hotel chain and turned into a lovely fancy hotel for wealthy golfers. Instead of the punk rock crusty, really really awesome scene that it used to be. So people are still trying to continue that, and anything we can do to help that would be great. But as you said, Northern Ireland has had some incredible punk bands.
Hmm.
Sort of back to likes of Stiff Little Fingers. I'm sure you've maybe heard of those guys.
Oh yeah.
We really set the scene for Northern Irish punk and Irish punk really at that. But yeah, that's kind of the scene. There's a few really good bands still going. New bands coming out, which is great to see. I suppose we will be one of those new bands now, even though we've been about for 20 odd years under different names and things. So yeah, hopefully the scene can continue to grow again, find its feet, since back to the way it was probably before COVID.
And the one thing I love about you guys out there in the United Kingdom is that you guys absolutely cherish your live music so much. I mean, I've interviewed so many bands and artists, and every time I've even mentioned the UK, if they're not from the UK and they go overseas for shows, I've heard so many bands say they get absolutely nothing but love. It's always UK and Japan. Those two countries are just love the scene, man. I really wish down here in Canada we would appreciate it more, because maybe then we get a lot more amazing acts out here as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes without saying, there's some fantastic Canadian bands, acts that have come out of your lovely country, that have heavily inspired us over the years. And I can't speak from experience because I've never visited, but again, we've a few contacts that we've, picked up online who, have sort of spoke about different parts of Canada and where's good to go and where's not. If we ever do decide to, obviously it would rely on finances and logistics, but I think, like you say, yeah, there's definitely a very passionate scene in different pockets of the UK. I mean, I'm quite near Cardiff, which used to have a fantastic music scene, but unfortunately, it's not what it used to be for much the same reasons that we discussed already. Bristol, you probably heard of. Again, similar sort of thing. There's a lot of, like you say, just little pockets of highly concentrated, really intense music scenes. But again, I think the general sort of consensus is, it's that grassroots sort of thing. It's like, getting people at the house when things are a lot more expensive nowadays. And say, I love going open mic nights are my thing. Just going turning up with a guitar, playing 3 or 4 songs, and just kind of, if you like what you heard, have a chat with me later, and we'll see where it goes.
And also, February 14th of this year, 2025, you guys actually released your most recent single titled Point of View. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story and inspiration behind your most recent single, and of course, where can we actually check it out today if we haven't already done so?
Sure. I mean, Point of View is quite an unusual song in that it started out life a long time ago. I've got to say, it's from a very old sort of concept and idea, which I kind of dreamt up probably over a decade ago now, I would say. I revisited it again during the lockdowns when things were really grim and all the rest of it. And I think perhaps subconsciously, when I started writing it a lot of time ago, maybe I was waiting for the right point in time for it to kind of come through. And I think a lot of the events that happened around that time really shaped the lyrical direction of where it was going, because it was just an instrumental pretty much back then. And again, if you listen to it, have a read the lyrics, like you'll see the clear kind of themes that we've got there. It's kind of about this sort of sense of hopelessness and all these problems that are going around. And we actually throw in sort of like direct quotes of things that like MPs in the UK said at the time, and there's little references here and there. And then we've got this little kind of Orwellian section for the bridge where we all start kind of chanting in sort of unison. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. We wanted to push the boundaries. We wanted to be experimental and maybe add a little bit more of a prog rock kind of feel to some aspects of it. But in terms of checking it out, I mean, it's available on all streaming platforms now. This is just the way the modern world is. Obviously, we signed up to distribute our music across Spotify, Apple Music, or any platform you want. Just type in Empire's Ruins. Obviously, our free singles are on there. We encourage people to listen to them and interpret them, and if they like them, great, and if they don't, that's fine. Absolutely, it's about taste. And what we would say is, regardless of how much you like or dislike them, feel free to get in contact with us. We like to hear people's opinions, and that's the most important thing about us, I think.
And also, as well, I have to say, this song is absolutely phenomenal. I love that all three of the singles that you guys actually put out since you came together and formed Empires of Ruins. But me as a fan, I have to ask, do you guys have any plans to actually release a full-length studio album, or are you guys is currently on the singles grind?
What do you think, Paul? I think
singles.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that we kind of looked at it was like we'll see how it goes, because we were taking it from pardon the pun, from a point of view that we didn't really know where it was going to go. It was essentially, let's be honest, we are three stressed out, working dads trying to navigate our way through our 30s. We've got a lot of responsibilities and all the rest of it. Like, this is a passion project. We never kind of set out with any idea to take over the world or anything. We're absolutely blown away by the positive kind of feedback that we've got, the streams that we've accumulated on Spotify. It's been fantastic, but we sort of wanted to adopt a kind of, we'll record this song, we'll release it, we'll see how it goes. If that's okay, we'll record another song. We've got a fantastic recording engineer that we use just outside of Belfast. Neil Calderwood, big shout out to him. He's been absolutely incredible in terms of taking the demos that we kind of sent him, recording us, mixing it, mastering it, producing it. He's just been the sort of guy that we need to kind of, just help us in the right direction, and put a little bit of fine tuning in that we need in these songs. And yeah, I mean, look, I have ideas and all the rest of it in my head of what an album would look like. I've probably got an album's worth of material sitting in my head. Paul's probably got a few additional songs here and there. There's things that we can do. It's just a matter of time and logistics for us, and it's sad to say, because in an ideal world, I'd love to be able to just, put aside X amount of time and do it. But, kids and jobs and all the rest of it, unfortunately, at this point in time, we're all pretty bogged down with it. So watch this space, but, let's take it with a grain of salt, if I'm honest.
But also this summer, June 27th to 29th, you guys will be performing in South Wales at Slugfest. What can your fans actually expect from this up-and-coming show this summer? And of course, where can we actually snag ourselves some tickets to come on out?
Again, I mean, this is a fantastic kind of DIY festival that's been going for many years now. I mean, I played out with a previous band of mine, and must be 2014, something like that. And it's just growing year on year. Obviously, with, again, COVID, derailed a lot of the progress that it made, but it's back again with a bang this year. And there's some really, really good bands playing. It's a mixture of kind of punk and metal, and obviously there's a few kind of acoustic acts and stuff on the Sunday. So there's a real wide range of stuff. In terms of getting tickets and stuff, I mean, if you visit their Instagram page, I think they just primarily use the socials. I'm not sure if they have a specific website, and get in touch with them that way. Again, I don't know what the sales have been like. I mean, I hear that they were selling quite quick, and there was quite a lot of interest from it because, again, as I say, it's one of those festivals that's picked up a lot of traction. But again, we probably have to check with the organisers. We just sort of we've just kind of put it on the back burner for now in terms of it's something that we're really looking forward to, but haven't honestly looked too much into it, if we're honest, because it's just very very busy times for us in other ways, and it's something to really look forward to that time of the year. So if we we get any more information, we'll certainly put it out on our Instagram account or Facebook or whatever platform you follow us on.
So we've sort of mapped out the set list, um, obviously the 3 songs that we have got recorded, plus another 5, 6 more
Yeah,
that we hopefully do intend to record, whether that be singles or an album, who knows. But yeah, the set was. It looks like we're actually going to Glenn's in the north coast of Ireland tomorrow. We're going to practice that set list tomorrow night. But it's a really energetic set list. The way Glenn's actually arranged the songs, that they flow so nicely into each other, like very much by design. Just to keep that energy going throughout and give, I guess, as fun and engaging a performance as you can.
yeah, absolutely. I think, like Paul says, I mean, I'm a little bit of a, I don't know. Some may say it's an OCD, some may say it's perfectionism. I don't know. I like the songs to kind of flow into one another. I like them to be roughly in the same tempo, key, whatever it may be. So the set list that we've kind of worked very hard on is very much, designed on that. They should flow into each other quite well. So we're looking at, at the minute, it's improving and it's picking up every time that we practice. But as I said, tomorrow I'm really looking forward to. I'm flying over for work, so obviously tie that in with a little practice session with Empires, and it's always a good one.
And aside from Slugfest, and of course you guys actually getting together and practicing and rehearsing the set list, what is next for Empires to Ruins? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening, or in this case, this morning's interview? Anything else you guys still want to touch on, talk about, or promote?
Yeah, I mean, we've always got a few things in the pipeline. We've been trying very hard to arrange shows in our hometown. It's been difficult for a couple of reasons, which we're not really go into. But yeah, there's people out there, who are trying really hard to make local independent music, thrive. And we've had a few, discussions with some people putting gigs on, predominantly in sort of Belfast sort of direction. I'm sure you've heard of Belfast. And
Oh yeah.
we're really excited, sort of opportunities that may come up there. Again, there's nothing kind of set in stone. It's something that will come about off its own accords, matters outside our own hands. But we've made ourselves open and very much willing that as long as we're given enough notice and enough time and preparation, we really want to play shows. That's first and foremost. It's we didn't sort of start this band to kind of just, like you say, record some singles and all the rest of it. We want to play shows. We acknowledge that it's probably a little bit more tricky for us given our logistics and all the rest of it. But if it's something that works for us and we're bought into what it involves, then yeah, kind of same. If there's anyone watching now that, that wants to book us up, feel free. But as I say, in terms of anything immediate, like I say, we want to do something quite local to where we're from. And we're waiting on the opportunity to arise on that. We've made our thoughts on that very clear. And then anything a bit further afield, like Belfast and whatnot, again, we're in discussions all the time with different promoters and different organisers. Something will come up soon. We have faith in that. So, yeah.
And first and foremost, guys, before we actually part ways here tonight, how do we go about following Empires of Ruins across all social media platforms? That way, the listeners here in Canada and out there in Ireland and Wales and whatever, everywhere across the UK can actually stay updated on what is next for you guys.
So yeah, I suppose it goes back to the name. We're quite lucky that we found one that wasn't taken. Most of the social media things are all just plain old Empires to Ruins, no numbers or hand symbols or anything like that after them, just Empires to Ruins on pretty much all social media bar. Not X, not Twitter.
Nah.
We don't go there. But everywhere else is pretty much just Empires to Ruins. Spotify, Apple Music, whatever your preferred platform is, it's there.
Yeah, I think we're most active on Instagram, but it's if we network with people in person, you know, we network on everything that goes on Instagram goes on Facebook too. We're not very active on Facebook, I've got to be honest. And I think we've got a TikTok account as well, don't we, Paul? But again,
somewhere.
It's just for the sake of having one. You know, the most of the stuff's done on Instagram these days, and you know, there's some fantastic bands that we've found via that platform and network with, and have built quite strong bonds up with. So I would probably encourage, just you know, if you're watching, you know, give us a follow, or you know, whatever, and we'll usually return the favor. I mean, I think it's going to be a mutual thing in the modern sort of music industry, where you know, bands are going to look out for each other. Opportunities are quite few and far between. The way things are at the moment, we'll always lend our support to bands that are giving a good, honest attempt at trying to, you know, put themselves out there and all the rest of it. So, you know, feel free to check us out, and we'll reciprocate the favor, guys.
But I gotta say, first and foremost, Glenn, Paul, thank you so much again, not only for your time, but staying up into early morning hours of Monday. I mean, it's Monday. I mean, I'm thankful for that, because I know personally I can't even stand Mondays, let alone Monday mornings. So thank you guys for riding it out and staying up and just
2 a.m.,
chatting
right?
with and chatting with myself and the Canadian listeners all the way until 2 a.m. It was such an honor, guys. Hopefully we can make this happen again sometime soon, but next time we'll definitely make it earlier on in the day. That way it doesn't lead out until 2 a.m. your time. But for now, guys, have yourselves an amazing week, and definitely looking forward to hearing and seeing what comes next from Empires to Ruins.
Thank you very much
Thanks very
for
much,
the
man.
opportunity. It's been great, and like I say, you know, let's keep in touch, and you know, let's keep things going. And obviously, you know, to your Canadian listeners and further field that have listened, you know, thanks very much, guys, for your time as well. And you know, please feel free to check us out, like us or dislike us. Let us know. We love all comments and all feedback, and it helps us kind of decide what direction we want to go in future. So thank you for your time, DJ Immortal. You're absolutely great, and hopefully speak soon.
Hey, most definitely. Thank you guys so much. And Glenn, Paul, have yourselves a phenomenal morning.
Cheers, Ed.